Hello, students, and welcome to the lesson The Bond of Love, written by Kenneth Anderson. Can there be love and friendship between human beings and wild animals? This lesson is a fascinating account of an orphaned sloth bear that was rescued by the author. So, this story highlights the emotional bond between human beings and animals. The narrator's wife shares affection with a wild bear and they get very attached to each other. This shows that animals have feelings and they reciprocate the love and warmth and affection shown by human beings. Sloth bears inhabit forested areas, including the tropical rainforests of India and grasslands at lower elevations. Sloth bears have very shaggy hair and long muzzles. Using their claws to dig, they can use their lips to form a tube which can go deep into the ground or into hard to reach areas like dead trees for their food. Their main food is termites. You can hear them suck up their food from several feet away. So, over here, children, we can see that uh, sloth bears are found, they live in forested areas and the location where they are found. You can find them in tropical rainforests, at grasslands, at lower elevations. That means not at great heights, lower down. And using their uh, claws, they can dig. They are able to form a tube, and then they can reach deep down into areas like dead trees, and they live on termites. They can suck their food from several feet away. So now let's begin reading the lesson and listen to the explanation. I will begin with Bruno, my wife's pet sloth bear. I got him for her by accident. 2 years ago, we were passing through the sugarcane fields near Mysore. People were driving away the wild pigs from the fields by shooting at them. Some were shot and some escaped. We thought that everything was over when suddenly a black sloth bear came out panting in the hot sun. So, over here, children, the meaning of the word panting is taking short, quick, deep breaths. Now, and what we can see is that the lesson begins with Bruno, the narrator's wife's pet sloth bear was found by accident 2 years ago when they were passing through the sugarcane fields near Mysore. People were driving out wild pigs from the fields in order to prevent the crops from being destroyed, and some of them were shot and some of them escaped, and they thought that everything was over when suddenly a big sloth bear came out, breathing, taking very short and quick breaths out in the sun. So let's continue reading. The narrators: Now, I will not shoot a sloth bear wantonly, but unfortunately for the poor beast, one of my companions did not feel that way about it and promptly shot the bear on the spot. As we watched the fallen animal, we were surprised to see that the black fur on its back moved and left the prostrate body. Then we saw that it was a baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back when the sudden shot had killed her. The little creature ran round its prostrate parent, making a pitiful noise. So, over here, the meaning of the word wantonly is for no good reason. So, what the narrator is saying is that personally he would not shoot a sloth bear without any good reason, without some uh, proper reason. But he said that his companion did not feel the same way, and so his companion shot the sloth bear on the spot. And as he watched that fallen animal, he was very surprised to see that the black fur on its back, suddenly moved, and then he realized that it was not fur, but it was the baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back, and that sudden shot that killed the mother bear had, made it very frightened. And so this little baby bear ran around its parent, making a very pitiful sound. Then I ran up to it to attempt a capture. It scooted into the sugarcane field. Following it with my companions, I was at last able to grab it by the scruff of its neck while it snapped and tried to scratch me with its long hooked claws. So, when the narrator was, first of all, he was very shocked, and then when he had, collected himself, and when he realized what had happened, he ran there in order to try and catch hold of this baby bear. But that baby bear scooted, that is, it ran away into the sugarcane field as it was very frightened. And the narrator did not give up chase, but he followed it along with his companions, and at last, finally, they were able to grab it by the scruff of its neck. And the animal was so frightened that it, it tried to bite, it tried to scratch them with its long hooked claws. But it did not succeed, and the narrator and his friends were able to put it in one of the gunny bags. They were able to put it in a sack that they had brought along with them, and so the narrator brought that baby bear to Bangalore, and then he presented it to his wife. She was delighted. She at once put a colored ribbon round its neck, and after discovering the cub was a boy, she christened it Bruno. So, after the death of the mother bear, the narrator uh, was able to catch hold of it, put it in a gunny bag into a sack, and then finally he took it home and he gave it to his wife. And when the narrator's wife saw that her husband had brought her such a wonderful gift, she her joy, her happiness knew no bounds. She at once tied a colored ribbon around its neck, and when she discovered that it was a male, she gave it the name Bruno. Bruno soon took to drinking milk from a bottle. It was but a step further, and within a very few days he started eating and drinking everything else. And everything is the right word, for he ate porridge made from any ingredients, vegetables, fruits, nuts, meat, especially pork, curry, and rice, regardless of the condiments and chilies, bread, eggs, chocolates, sweets, puddings, ice cream, etc., etc., etc. As for drink, milk, tea, coffee, lime juice, aerated water, buttermilk, beer, alcoholic liquor, and in fact anything liquid, it all went down with a relish. So, over here we can see that uh, Bruno got very used to being with the narrator and his wife, so much so that he, they started feeding it with milk from a bottle, and that happened just for a few days. And after that, Bruno, got so used to them, but he had a voracious appetite, and so he started eating and drinking everything possible, beginning with porridge, that is dalia, made from any ingredients like milk and say wheat, and say dal or things like that. He started eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and meat, especially pork, then curry, rice, all, you name it, and he had it. And not only fruits and vegetables, but concerning liquids also, he had he had no favorites. Whatever was given to him, whether be it milk or tea or coffee or lime juice or aerated water, even alcoholic drinks were not left by him. He consumed even alcoholic drinks, and he really relished, that means he enjoyed having all that. Now, the bear became very attached to our two Alsatian dogs and to all the children of the tenants living in our bungalow. He was left quite free in his younger days and spent his time in playing running into the kitchen and going to sleep in our beds. One day, an accident befell him. I put down poison, that is barium carbonate, to kill the rats and mice that had got into my library. Bruno entered the library, as he often did, and he ate some of the poison. Paralysis set in to the extent that he could not stand on his feet, but he dragged himself on his stumps to my wife, who called me. I guessed what had happened. Off I rushed in the car to the vet's residence. A case of poisoning, tame bear, barium carbonate, what to do? So, we as we saw that the bear had a really hearty appetite and kept eating and drinking, whatever was given to him, he had absolutely no problem. But then the bear became very, he was very fond of the narrator's two Alsatian dogs, and not only that, all the children of the tenants who lived in their bungalow. uh, what he did was that he was quite free in his younger days, and he spent all his time running, playing, running into the kitchen, and he also used to go and sleep on the narrator's beds. But one day an accident took place. What happened was that the narrator had put some poison in order to kill the rats and mice that got into the library. But it was very unfortunate that Bruno entered the library, and knowing his wonderful appetite, he went and had consumed some of that poison. And so the effect of that was he got paralyzed to the extent that he was unable to stand on his feet, but he dragged himself in that particular state and went to the narrator's wife, who realized that something, that he had consumed that poison. And so she called her husband. She rang him up and told him, and the narrator came immediately and then put him into a van and took him into the car and took him to the veterinarian. And they were wondering what exactly they were to do in his case. So the vet consulted his medical books, and a feverish reference to index began. What poison did you say? That means the vet wanted to know. Sir, barium carbonate. Ah, yes. Barium salts. Ah, barium carbonate. Symptoms: paralysis, treatment, injections of. Just a minute, sir. I'll bring my syringe and the medicine. A dash back to the car. Bruno was still floundering about on his stumps, but clearly weakening rapidly. Some vomiting, heavy breathing with heavy flanks and gaping mouth. So, the meaning of the word floundering was, it means that the bear was struggling a lot in order to move about. So when the narrator took Bruno to the vet began to consult his his books, his medical books, and he looked up, and he asked the narrator what poison the bear had consumed. And he said, oh, barium carbonate. And he said, okay, now I know exactly what I have to give this bear in order to cure him. He says, just wait a minute and I'll go get my syringe and the medicine which I will administer to this bear. So then, but when they ran back to the car, Bruno was floundering. That means he was struggling there. He was not at peace. He was struggling to move, and he had become very, very weak, and there was vomiting, there was heavy breathing, and so they had to hold him. Many of them had to hold him while the vet gave him an injection, and Bruno squealed. That means he made a very loud sound. It must have hurt him. 10 cc of the antidote enters his system without a drop being wasted. 10 minutes later, his condition unchanged. Another 10 cc injected. 10 minutes later, breathing less stertorous. Bruno can move his arms and legs a little, though he cannot stand yet. 30 minutes later, Bruno gets up and has a great feed. He looks at us disdainfully, as much as to say, What's a barium carbonate to a big black bear like me? Bruno is still eating. Oh, that is very heartening. So, here, children, we can see that like when the vet realizes what he has to give him as an antidote, he asks the narrator and several other people to hold him tight while he administers the when he gives him the injection. And then when they look at him 10 minutes later, Bruno's condition is still very bad. It is unchanged, so they give him another shot of the injection, and his breathing becomes less noisy, and as though he is snoring. And as they wait and they look 30 minutes later, they look at him, and then Bruno finally stands up and he is back to normal. And how do we know that he is back to normal? Well, whatever is given to him, he goes back to eating with a really hearty appetite, as if to say that, oh, what is a little poison to me? I am a big bear, and so this will not at all affect me. Another time, he found nearly 1 gallon of old engine oil, which I had drained from the sump of the stud baker and was keeping as a weapon against the inroads of termites. He promptly drank the lot, but it had no ill effects whatever. The months rolled on, and Bruno had grown many times the size he was when he came. He had equaled the Alsatians in height, and had even outgrown them, but was just as sweet, just as mischievous, just as playful, and he was very fond of us all. Above all, he loved my wife, and she loved him too. She had changed his name from Bruno to Baba, a Hindustani word signifying a small boy, and he could do a few tricks too. At the command Baba, wrestle, or Baba, box, he vigorously tackled anyone who came forward for a rough and tumble. Give him a stick and say, Baba, hold gun, and he pointed the stick at you. Ask him, Baba, where's baby? And he immediately produced and cradled affectionately a stump of wood which he had carefully concealed in his straw bed. But because of the tenant's children, poor Bruno or Baba had to be kept chained most of the time. So, children, as we can see here, that very unfortunate incident did not put an end to Bruno's voracious appetite. He continued eating and drinking very, very well. Another incident that happened was once he drank nearly 1 gallon of old engine oil, and but he had no ill effects of that. Nothing was seen on his constitution, on his body. So the months rolled on, and Bruno grew. He grew really fast. In fact, from his small little size, he grew so big that he equaled the Alsatians in height. And even though he was growing in size, his mischievousness, his playfulness, none of them became less. But he continued being the same sweet, mischievous animal. And he was very, very fond of the narrator's family, and he loved the narrator's wife. So when she changed his name from Bruno and called him Baba, which in Hindustani means a little boy, and he was able to they taught him quite a few tricks at her command. Baba wrestle or Baba box. He tackles anyone who came, and he gave them. He had a nice rough tumble with them, and when they gave him a stick and told him, Baba, hold gun, Baba, where's baby? He would produce very lovingly, produce a stump of wood which he concealed in his straw bed. But because of the tenant's children, he was growing bigger and they were afraid. So he had to be chained. He had to be kept chained most of the time. Then my son and I advised my wife, and friends advised her too, to give Baba to the zoo at Mysore. He was getting too big to keep at home, and after some weeks of such advice, she at last consented. Hastily, and before she could change her mind, A letter was written to the curator of the zoo. Did he want a tame bear for his collection? He replied yes. The zoo sent a cage from Mysore in a lorry, that means a truck, a distance of 87 miles, and Baba was packed off. So, over here, children, we can see that the narrator's son, his wife, and friends all advised his wife to give him away to the Mysore zoo as he was getting too big for them to keep at home. And it took several weeks of convincing for her to, make up her mind and agree with them that yes, that was the best course of action. Like it would be best for him that he be given to the zoo. And so they wrote to the curator of the zoo, and the curator agreed that he wanted to keep the bear at the zoo. And so the zoo sent a truck a distance of 87 miles and they packed him off. But in the meantime, let's see what happens. We all missed him greatly, but in a sense we were relieved. My wife was inconsolable. She wept and fretted for the first few days. She would not eat a thing. Then she wrote a number of letters to the curator. How was Baba? Back came the replies. Well, but fretting. He refuses food too. So, what happened in the meantime after Baba was given, packed and given to the Mysore zoo? The narrator's wife was inconsolable. That means none of them was able to, console her of this great loss. For her, Baba was just like a family member and like her child. So she felt the loss tremendously. She felt it a really great loss, and so she refused to eat. She, fretted. She pined for him, and then, she missed him a lot. She wrote letters to the curator asking about him, asking about his, how he was and how he was managing there. And the reply came that Bruno, the Baba, was okay, but that he too was fretting. He was missing all of them and he was refusing to eat, which was very surprising. After that, friends visiting Mysore were begged to make a point of going to the zoo and seeing how Baba was getting along. They reported that he was well, but he looked very thin and sad. All the keepers at the zoo said he was fretting. For 3 months I managed to restrain my wife from visiting Mysore. Then she said one day, I must see Baba. Either you take me by car or I will go myself by bus or train. So I took her by car. So after Baba was sent to the Mysore zoo, his wife, the narrator's wife, was very, very sad. And when she inquired about Baba's health from the curator, he replied saying that he is well but he is fretting and he refuses to eat. So she asked a few of her friends who lived in Mysore to go and check about the well-being of the bear. They too told her the same thing. They said that the bear was alright, he was good in health, but he had become very thin and he looked very, very sad. And this was vouched for by even the zookeepers. All of them said the same thing. And so the narrator had, by hard means, he tried to keep his wife from visiting the zoo. But after 3 months, one day she gave him an ultimatum. She told him that either he should take her to the zoo or she would go herself by bus or by train, but go there she would. And so when the narrator heard her saying this, he decided to take her by car. So let's continue reading. Friends had conjectured that the bear would not recognize her. I had thought so too. But while she was yet some yards from his gate, Baba saw her and recognized her. He howled with happiness. She ran up to him and petted him through the bars, and he stood on his head in delight. For the next 3 hours, she would not leave that cage. She gave him tea, lemonade, cakes, ice cream, and what not. Then closing time came and we had to leave. My wife cried bitterly. Baba cried bitterly. Even the hardened curator and the keepers felt depressed. As for me, I had reconciled myself to what I knew was going to happen next. So, here, when the narrator took his wife to the Mysore Zoo, and on the way, several friends, they formed an opinion. They guessed that Baba would have forgotten the narrator and his family by then, with the passage of 3 months. And even the narrator thought the same way. He thought that since it had been a long while before Baba had seen, either of them, he would have forgotten them. But when they reached the zoo and the narrator's wife was several yards away from the cage, Baba saw the narrator's wife and recognized her. Not only that, he shouted with happiness. So the narrator's wife ran up to his cage, petted him through the bars, and he was so delighted. And she started feeding him, different things: tea, lemonade, cakes, ice cream, and you name it. And she was like feeding him, and she refused to let go of him. She stayed close to that cage for 3 hours, and till it was closing time at the zoo, and they had to leave. And the narrator knew very well what would happen next, and he had prepared himself, he had reconciled himself to that. He knew what was going to happen, that she would ask to take the bear back home. Oh, please, sir. And even the curator, who was so hard hearted, but at that, looking at the bear's, fondness, and the narrator's, home, she was feeling so very, sad. She didn't want to, let go of him. So, looking at this bond of love between the narrator and the bear, even the hardened curator was very, very moved. Oh, please, sir, she asked the curator, may I have my Baba back? Hesitantly, he answered, Madam, he belongs to the zoo and is government property. Now, I cannot give away government property, but if my boss, the superintendent Bangalore, agrees, certainly you may have him back. There followed the return journey to Bangalore and a visit to the superintendent's bungalow. A tearful pleading, Baba and I are both fretting for each other. Will you please give him back to me? He was a kind hearted man and consented. Not only that, but he wrote to the curator telling him to lend us a cage for transporting the bear back to Bangalore. So, after the narrator's wife had visited Baba at the zoo and fed him, she was in tears. She didn't want to let him to be there in that zoo. So she goes and speaks to the curator and asks him for the bear back. She says since both were fretting, she didn't want to let him go. But the curator very seriously says that, sorry madam, I cannot give him back to you because now he belongs to the government. But what I can do is write to the superintendent, my boss, and ask if he will allow me to give the bear back to you. Then I will surely allow you to take him. And so they had to wait there, wait till they got an answer from the superintendent at Bangalore. And they did get a very favorable reply. The superintendent was a kind hearted man, and he agreed to giving the narrator's wife the bear back. And not only that, he lent them a cage in order to transport the bear back to Bangalore. So, back we went to Mysore again, armed with the superintendent's letter. Baba was driven into a small cage and hoisted on top of the car. The cage was tied securely, and a slow and careful return journey to Bangalore was accomplished. So, here the narrator and his wife managed to put Baba back into a cage and pull that cage up onto the top of the car. They tied it securely, and the return journey was accomplished. That means they managed to do that very slowly, but they managed to reach back home. And once they reached home, a squad of coolies, that means many of them were hired for special work in their compound. An island was made for Baba. It was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide and surrounded by a dry pit or moat 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. A wooden box that once housed fowls was brought and put on the island for him to sleep in at night. Straw was placed inside it to keep him warm, and his baby, the gnarled stump, along with his gun, the piece of bamboo, which both of which had been sentimentally preserved since he had been sent away to the zoo, were now put back for him to play with. So, when the narrator and his wife managed to bring Baba back home, they got ready, preparing the place for Baba to live happily back again. So they called several coolies and they prepared the compound. They made an island kind of a thing which was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide, and that was surrounded by one a dry pit or a moat. It was 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep, and a wooden box which earlier in which hens were kept, fowls were kept, was kept there so that he could sleep inside it at night and remain warm. And also they made sure to keep the gnarled stump, that means that piece of wood that was his gun, which they had very sentimentally kept safe for him while he was at the Mysore Zoo. In a few days, the coolies hoisted the cage onto the island and Baba was released. He was delighted, standing on his hind legs. He pointing his gun, cradled his baby, that stump that he had, and the narrator's wife spent hours sitting on a chair while he sat on a lap. He was 15 months old and pretty heavy too. So, in a few days' time, the coolies, after preparing that whole island for him, they hoisted that cage onto the island and they released him. They set him free. And he, his joy was really complete. He was delighted. He stood on his back legs and pointing his gun, cradled that little baby, and his wife spent hours there, sitting there, and he sat, even though he was just 15 months old, he was huge and very heavy, but yet he sat on the narrator's wife's lap. The way my wife reaches the island and leaves it is very interesting. I have tied a rope to the overhanging branch of a mango tree with a loop at its end, and putting one foot in the loop, she kicks off with the other to bridge the 6-foot gap that constitutes the width of the surrounding pit. The return journey is made the same way. But who can say now that a sloth bear has no sense of affection, no memory, and no individual characteristics? So here we can see, children, that not only did the narrator's wife have very loving and tender feelings towards the bear, who was just like her own child, but the bear, even though he was a sloth bear and supposed to be very lazy and sleepy most of the time, yet the bear also had great feelings of love and affection for the narrator's wife, for the narrator and his whole family. And the way in which she would go visiting was very funny. They had made an island and there was a 6 feet wide pit, and what she would do was that she would go there and she would come back. She would tie a rope to the branch of a mango tree with a loop at one end, and putting one foot in it, she would kick it off with the other leg, and then she would go there and spend time with Baba, and then she would come back the same way. So in conclusion, we can say that animals and human beings have a very, very special bond. That means there's no one who can say that animals do not reciprocate, animals do not feel. They do have feelings, and that can be seen very well in this story, where we can see how the sloth bear missed the narrator's wife so much that he refused to eat or drink, and he was very happy when he saw her, and so he spent his time with her very happily. So, I hope you have understood this lesson well, children, and make sure you read the lesson and, go through the meanings. Now, I will continue with the question answers of the lesson. I got him for her by accident. Who says this? Well, the narrator says this. Who do him and her refer to? Him refers to the bear and her refers to the narrator's wife. Then, what is the incident referred to here? The incident referred to here is when the narrator's companion shoots a bear dead and they find the baby bear who was alive. They catch the baby bear and take it along with them. He stood on his head in delight. Who does that he refer to and why was he delighted? The he refers to Bruno or Baba, that is the bear. And why was he delighted? He was delighted to see the narrator's wife. Question number 3. We all missed him greatly, but in a sense we were relieved. Who does we all stand for and who did they miss? Why did they nevertheless feel very relieved? We all stands for the narrator, his wife, his son, the Alsatian dogs who were their pets, and the tenants, children who lived there in their bungalow. Then they all missed Baba. And why did they feel relieved? They felt very relieved because he was a very big bear and keeping him had become it was very, very inconvenient for them. Now the next question is question number 3. On 2 occasions, Bruno ate or drank something that should not be eaten or drunk. What happened to him on these occasions? Well, in the very first incident, Bruno had the poison barium carbonate, which was kept in order to kill rats, and he was he was struck by an attack of paralysis. The narrator took him to a veterinary doctor who injected medicines twice in order to revive him. And then in the second incident, Bruno drank the engine oil which the narrator had drained in and he had kept aside in order to fight a termite attack. And that did not have any adverse effect on Bruno. He was hale and hearty. The next question, was Bruno a loving and playful pet? Why then did he have to be sent away? Well, Bruno was loving and very playful. He was sent away because he had grown into a huge bear and it was not safe to keep him in an inhabited area as he could harm people. The narrator, his son and their friends all convinced his wife, who was very, very attached to Bruno, and finally she gave in to their demands and she understood that what they were saying was true, and so finally he was sent to the zoo at Mysore. How was the problem of what to do with Bruno finally solved? The problem of what to do with Bruno was finally solved by sending him off to the Mysore Zoo. They wrote a letter to the zoo in charge, that is the curator, and when he agreed, Baba was packed up in a cage and was sent away to the zoo. Now the next, thinking about language. Find these words in the lesson. They all have an I, E or EI in them. The first one is children, I would like you to go through these words and find them yourselves. Okay. Now the next one. Here are some words with silent letters. Learn their spellings. Your teacher will dictate these. Write and underline the silent letters. Knock. The K is silent. Wrestle. W is silent. Walk. L is silent. Wrong. W is silent. In the next one, knee. The K is silent. In half, the L is silent. Then in honest, the H is silent. In daughter, again the H is silent. Then in ours, it's the H again which is silent. In return, the R is silent. The hornet, again it's the R which is silent. Then calm, it's the L which is silent. the could. Again, the letter L is silent. Then, in sign, the G is silent. In island, the S is silent. And in button, the O is silent. Now, let us look at the index. An index is a list of names or topics that are to be found in a book. It's a list arranged in alphabetical order at the end of a book. The doctor's consulting. To know what food security and minimum support price mean, you can go to the subject index given below from Poverty and Famines, and an essay on entitlement and deprivation by Amartya Sen, under which heading in the index box are you likely to find these topics. So you must go through this and do it for self-study. Then the narrative present. So you're supposed to rewrite the paragraph in complete sentences, and they've given you the beginning, how you are to begin. You can begin the wet and I made a dash back to the car. Bruno was still floundering, and so on. Then the next is adverbs. Complete the following sentences using a suitable adverb ending with ly. Rana does her homework neatly. It rains heavily in Mumbai in June. He does his work sincerely. The dog serves his master devotionally. Then the next one is choose the most suitable adverbs or adverbial phrases and complete the following sentences. We should never get down from a moving train. That means we shouldn't alight. I was badly in need of support after my poor performance. That means I needed some encouragement. Rita met with an accident. The doctor examined her immediately is quickly. Then the next one is there's a scrambled version of a story. So read it and then rewrite by rearranging the incidents. Okay, so you're supposed to do this yourself. I hope you have understood this lesson well. Make sure you study it and write it in your fair book. Thank you and have a nice day.